ahead and start recording.
Okay.
There you go. All right, so the meeting's being recorded. So I'll call the meeting. It's 6 o'clock. We have a quorum present. I will call the meeting of the Freetown Planning Board to order. Before we get started, I must read the governor's order. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 19, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Freetown Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Freetown's website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Freetown's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay. So we have quite a few items that have asked for continuances for various reasons. Before we do that, I put it out there at our last meeting to just think about whether we wanted to go back to in-person. We have the ability to do it. We have yet to confirm, or we're still trying to figure out a way that we can have the meeting, have folks who want to be present be there, but at the same time allowing for remote participation of either the general public or a board member who, for whatever reason, during these COVID times is unable to be at the meeting. We've got some information on that. Chris is going up to the police station, I believe, on Thursday to find out some more specific information. So I think in the immediacy, our next meeting will be via Zoom until we can get a handle on what our limitations are going to be, so that we can let everybody know and how we want to proceed with that. I just don't want to get into a situation where we may have folks, applicants, and/or their representatives that may have a level of discomfort right now coming, or a planning board member. Nobody's expressed that to me yet, but I don't want to be in a position where I'm putting anybody in a difficult spot. So I guess in the immediacy, until we can get a definitive answer on how to do this. I mean, it can be done. We just have to figure out, do we need to buy equipment? Is this a town purchase? You know, is it even set up to do that? I believe it is, but there's certain other hardware equipment that would need to be, whether it's microphones or something along those lines. So we'll continue to look into that. So, but in the immediacy, we're just going to continue to via Zoom until we can get a definitive answer.
Kevin,
right.
Kevin,
Sure.
One quick comment. I believe the Board of Selectmen, even prior to COVID, were doing something with remote participation. So they may have some equipment that I don't know if it was specific to the Council on Aging where they were meeting, or if it was something that they used. But I know when a couple of members of the board were down south for time in February there a couple of years ago, they were doing remote. I know they voted to do it and they were doing it. So I don't know if that's something that we can, maybe there's equipment that we can get our hands on or something like that.
There's two different things, right? Under normal circumstances, right, a town can adopt the provision to allow for remote participation. So there's a set of rules that go along with that. And then we have the COVID remote participation, which is, I think, a little bit even more laxed to a certain degree. So you're right. It has been set up. I just need to figure out a way. And thank you. I know that I asked Victoria to reach out to the selectmen, the conservation clerk, and maybe Chris can too, to see if they have any ideas to help us out. You know, and we'll just, if we can't do it, then we'll have, and we go to in person, then it's going to have to be that way. I mean, eventually we have to go back, right? I mean, this is not going to last forever, fingers and toes crossed. So it's just a matter of when. So, but I can appreciate the fact, you know, I serve chairman in multiple boards, and I appreciate the fact that some members, whether they've been vaccinated or not, there's a hesitancy. They may want to wait a little bit till more people have the opportunity to get vaccinated, and just, see what direction it's going. So out of respect for everybody and this whole flipping pandemic, we're just going to stay the course for now. Okay, so let's start with, I know we're going to go out of order just real quick so that if anybody's hanging on to talk about these things, they will know that we are going to be moving forward without hearing them tonight. So we have item number 2. This is for continued public hearing. This is for a subdivision for 1 Mendacia Way. I will call that public hearing back to order. Chris, what's the status of that, bud?
They're still, I believe, dealing with the court issue, and they'd like to continue to May 18th.
Of course they would. That way it kind of now puts me out of the month meeting Zoom. We're probably going to have, we have to go out a month anyway on these other 2, so that's fine. I'll entertain a motion to continue public hearing for 1 Mendacia Way to, would you say May 18th?
Yes.
6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and supported. There's no further discussion. All in favor? Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Have we got Chris Mello back yet?
Yes.
Okay, Chris Mello.
Aye.
Aye, perfect. Thank you. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passed unanimous. I call back to order the continued public hearing for an application proposing 2 warehouse contractor storage buildings on Brayley Road, Mitch Kev RE LLC. I've called that public hearing back to order. Where does this stand?
They are still supposed to be, I believe, finalizing plans and submitting them to EPG, which they have not done yet.
In response to initial peer review, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's reach out to them and get an idea. This is going on a while now, and I get it. Developing property is difficult and sometimes costly and time consuming. But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of end game. So if we can, reach out and try to get a better understanding of where they are and what their plan is going forward. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to May 18th. Go ahead.
They requested May 4th, but
They requested May 4th?
yes.
Fine. I'll give them May 4th. If they're requesting May 4th, that's fine. I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to May 4th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Bob, you still on? Who's this, Christopher Mello on there? Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm going to hold the vote here. Who's talking?
oh.
Can
Okay,
you mute
Folks,
all?
if you're on the Zoom meeting with the Freetown Planning Board, if you'd be so kind as to either mute yourself or just wait to be addressed before we're in the middle of taking a motion right now. I'll be happy to talk to you as soon as we're done with this motion. So, motion's been made to continue the public hearing to May 4th, 6 o'clock, via Zoom. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Was there somebody needed to ask a question about something? Okay. We have 2 more items tonight. They're public hearings that I'm going to call to order. They're both in the same boat with this. So it's item number 5. This is a public hearing that I will call to order. This is a public hearing for a new application. This is for site plan review, site development plans. I'm sorry, this isn't item number 5. This would be item number 6 and number 7. Excuse me. So item number 6, the planning board will conduct a public hearing April 20th, 2021, to act on an application for Simmons Street Petty Solar LLC. The applicant submitted a site plan review application and for a site plan review for a large-scale solar, ground-mounted solar array. During the process of determining whether this is a complete submittal and whether all of the thresholds have been met for a public hearing, meaning, one, did we advertise the public hearing? We did that. Two, was an advertisement for the public hearing. That was done. So we posted the public hearing, advertised. Unfortunately, the abutters notifications, that's the responsibility of the applicant, were not mailed out. So I do not feel comfortable at all moving forward with this public hearing. The same will hold true for item number 7. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize, Chris. You wrote up that nice thing for me and colored it and everything else, told me to be prepared for the meeting tonight, and I left it all at work. So if it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about a little bit, it's because I lost that paper. So I apologize, Chris. So this is the same for item number 6 and number 7. So what the plan is right now, and that's why we're going to have to continue both of these to the 18th. The plan is right now is to repost the public hearing notice, re-advertise the public hearing, and to ensure that all the abutters are notified before we move forward. We have not reached out to council on this, but again, I do not feel comfortable moving forward with any aspect of the public hearing if the public has not been duly notified, excuse me. So that being said, the public hearing will be open, but we will not do anything until we can confirm that those 3 items will be done prior to the May 18th meeting. So if there's anybody here that's an abutter to the Simmons Street project, or if there is anybody here to the what is this? That's the Gurney Road project, correct? Am I?
Yes.
What's the Gurney Road? So yeah. We will not be discussing them at all tonight, and they will be continued to May 18th at 6 o'clock via Zoom. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. So I will call both of those public hearings to order. One again for the solar array to be located on Simmons Street, and the other for a solar array to be located off of Gurney Road. I'll entertain a motion that we continue the public hearings to May 18th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and supported. There's no further discussion. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. So now we can get on to the rest of this. Right, Chris? I haven't missed anything else, right?
No. The only thing would be the Neon Innovation Way discussion, which is just going to take place at the May 4th meeting.
Okay, so they've asked to move that discussion to May 4th.
Yes.
Okay, so anybody that might be here for tonight for that discussion on a minor plan modification for Neon Innovation Way project, they have asked to move the conversation and discussion to our next meeting, which is May 4th. So you can join us on that evening. Okay, well, that being said, then we can move down to item number 5. I'm sorry, item number 4. Item number 4, we have a continued public hearing. I will call that back to order. This was a continuation of a public hearing for a plan entitled Site Development Plans, Forge Road Solar Project located at 12 Forge Road, Mass. I believe the applicants, Chris stated today that they would like to make a brief, like an update kind of presentation. Currently, they are under peer review in response to a joint meeting with planning board members and EPG relative to what the review was going to be. So that being said, we have any representatives from this project here that would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Young from CVE. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well, Ryan. Thank you very much.
I'm here tonight with Chris King from Atlantic and also Betsy Mason from Clavin's Law Group. and either Chris or I can give you an update. Chris?
Yeah, Ryan, before we get started, I was remiss in mentioning, folks, if let's get him the ability to screen share if he needs to. 2, folks that are interested, all pertinent information relative to this project, application, actual plan sets, our peer review, their responses to it, those all should be on our website, freetownma.gov. Go to the planning board. You will see on the, right-hand side, there's, what does it say, Chris, exactly?
It doesn't, it's not there tonight, Kevin. It's only April 6th is the last.
Oh, I just have to update the date. Sorry about that. That's all the correct information for tonight's meeting.
All right, so the April 6th, 2021 meeting materials are tonight's meeting materials?
Yes.
Okay, so folks, obviously a little keystroke error there, but Chris, let's get that updated tomorrow. Yep. So folks that want to follow along, you can go to the planning board department on our website and look onto the right-hand side, April 6, 2021 meeting materials. And on there should be all the up-to-date stuff relative to not only this, well, it looks like it's only this one. So, okay. Sorry about that, guys.
It now should say April 20th, so.
Okay.
Should be all good.
Thank you. Yep, says it April 20th. Perfect. Okay, Ryan, so I apologize. Go right ahead, sir.
No problem. So as I said, Chris King is here. Betsy Mason from Cleveland's Law Group is here. As you said, we're still in the peer review process. I know Adam's on, so maybe Adam can comment a little bit on where we are as well. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can, so we're prepared and ready for the next meeting and have everything lined up so we can move this on to a vote. And we did get the letter back from the noise peer review from Epsilon. We received that today and are reviewing it. We just want to make sure that we're on the same page with the board about the depth and detail of the study moving forward and whether you're asking for more information than was submitted or not. We feel like we're relatively conservative in the numbers that we were given or supplied to Epsilon and EPG. They're asking for more information. And we want to know if we're sort of on the same page with that.
Okay. So I guess what specifically is it, or Adam, you're with us, correct?
Yep.
All right. So which letter should we be looking at? 12-4 draw response to EPG request for additional information, or noise impacts assurance letter revision 1?
I'm not sure what it's titled on.
12-4 Drode.
What's the date? I got one April 13th, 2021.
It's the 12-4 Drode solar noise peer review.
12-4 Road solar noise peer review. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Okay, so I to oversimplify, like I like to do, it sounds like the solar folks have submitted some information. They believe it should be enough to make a determination. It sounds like that EPG or Epsilon, who's your subcontractor, your sound specialist that you hire to do these things, may be looking for more information. Is that the crux of this? So
essentially, yes. I mean, they say at the start that in general, they agree with the conclusions of the letter that Atlantic provided, which indicate that sound levels from the project at nearby residences will be low. However, there are a few statements in the letter which are inaccurate, and additional information would be needed for a more complete analysis and conclusion. So if, their opinion is basically that this is, pretty close, but if the board prefers additional detail, there were a few things that were in question, including, what is the background noise was 70 decibels an accurate measurement for the sound generation, and was the measurement of decibels something that is a standard practice? So those were basically the three comments they had on the last page of what additional information would be required. And right. So it's you know, these could be considered, if it depending on the level of concern of the board, you could consider requesting this information, or you could rely on the statement at the front that in general the overall impression was that there would be, you know, any sound impact at the nearby residences will be low.
Right.
And I guess there are a few. Yeah, I would just add that there are a few details that are easy to clean up. I mean, you know, the one piece of information that's more time consuming and a lot more costly is to do a specific the site assessment specific to the site. We feel like we were pretty conservative there. I think they recognize that, so we're looking clarification on the board on what you want and what the typical process is for these projects and what you've asked on.
Well, I'll start with, well, I'd like to say that we have a typical process, and I think that's in general we do. I think each one presents itself a set of circumstances or unique circumstances. One, we're trying to put solar on a lot that already has an existing structure, and I know that there's, you know, we've had conversation about that, or existing home, not just structure. Excuse me, residence. Second, that this is an area of concern, and we've recognized that where there may be battery storage or some of this newer technology, while it's improved on one end, may not have been improved. We have seen that bore out on another one where we had to require a sound study. At the end of the day, they met the burden. I just want to go back, Bob, you were part of that conversation. And again, you would know a bit better, having survived being a selectman in town and having to deal with a noise mitigation issue in a sonnet. That the standards for the DEP are pretty straightforward, and I think, and to make it easy for myself, you get ambient noise, and then your activities cannot be more than 10 decibels over the ambient noise off your property, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. And so, property line.
Oh, at the property line, okay. And in order to figure out if you can be within that threshold, you would have to do some sort of sound study that would determine what the ambient noise is, correct?
Yeah, normally a sound study is they take a 24-hour period, but they actually do it over a 7-day stretch, and they do a typical 24-hour period. I think it's called the N24 or N20, which is the study, and they generate a typical ambient. You know, obviously it's higher during the day than it is at night and all that, and they take all that into account and they come up with a number, and it can't exceed 10 decibels above that number. We really didn't ask for that detail of a sound study. All we asked for is, at least to my knowledge, because that's really a in-depth process. I believe we just want to show some modeling that there's basically no noise going to escape the property line or stay within the 10 decibels, especially when you get into near residence areas. There's, you know, to the north, I guess that's not, to the north is some houses, but to the east, really, Profile Rock goes up there. There's not a lot of houses, maybe up by Wiedemo. Wiedemo, there's some houses.
Right.
But the only thing that's going to generate noise. Right. The only thing that's going to generate noise is those the inverters with the battery storage, and it's dependent on the AC units that cool those units.
Right.
So where those are located on the site is really going to be, everything else doesn't generate noise. So that's kind of going to be the crux of the sound, and just so give us something that shows this, you know, a lot of sound's not leaving its site. That's really what I think I'm looking for, and what the board should be looking for.
Okay, that makes sense. And again, I defer to your experience with this. So, but I would say this: at the end of the day, should they be successful in getting the permit and building the facility, we would probably, or we should, in my opinion, permit it such that they have to continue to meet the DEP sound standard going forward. So if there is sound complaints, and if we get to that level, they may in fact have to do the sound study then. And if it's found that there is exceedance, they would have to do some mitigation to offset that.
Oh,
I mean, it's no
absolutely.
different than any other business. Typically, that all of a sudden, you know, whatever years later, they're more successful, whatever it is, and there's noise complaints. That would typically be how DEP would address it, correct? Or the town would have the local authority if it was conditional approval.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we should approach it kind of like we do our lighting plans. When we ask for a lighting plan, it's to show how many lumens are leaving the site. And, you know, that's something we just hold them to later on. If they say, you know, there'll be 0 lumens leaving the site, you know, they do whatever they need for construction, and things will grow and go on. But down the road, if they start, you know, generating noise, or if in the example of the light study, if they start generating light that leaves the site, we go back and say, no, well, your application said you weren't going to have any light that leaves the site. So just conform to that. You know, fix your lights away so they don't shine on off site. Same thing with this. If they're going to submit a thing saying we don't have any sound that's going to leave the site, that's great. You know, but down the line, if they do something that now generates sound that leaves the site, they'll have to conform to that. They'll have to change it or take that into account when they do an addition. If they put more batteries on or whatever, just do it so it conforms with the plan that they have. What they said they were going to do. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. You know, again, you know, we're reasonable people here. We got to protect the folks here who live in town, but at the same time, we try to be reasonable. So,
and does
that help?
I'm
sorry. Does that help all parties, or give clarity at least to all parties here?
Yeah, I think so, and we're agreeable to that. So, Adam, it sounds like we need to address bullet point 1 and 3. Is that correct?
I just skimmed away from it. Yeah, so you're talking about the 70 dBA level and the clarification about dB versus dBA. Yep. That seems reasonable.
Okay, so you guys can continue working on that. I'm going to assume that you want to be continued to our next meeting, which is May 4th.
Yes, that will work for us. Will that be okay for you, Adam?
Yeah, we should be able to wrap up the rest of our review before then.
Okay. I mean, and again, if not, and you know, you want to approach the board again and have another conversation relative to this to give clarity, we'll certainly do that. So, is there anything else to add? Are there any folks here from the general public that have any comments, questions, or concerns? No? Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 12 Forge Road solar application to May 4th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay. Next on our agenda, Chris, we have a solar application. This is for the 32 Middleborough Road site, correct, Chris?
Yes.
Yes. So this is a brand new public hearing. So this is an application for a solar array to be installed at 32 Middleborough Road, also known as Claremont Way, at the end of Claremont Way. So I'll call that public hearing to order. If there are folks here, interested parties, I know we in fact did receive a letter. Chris, you sent that to me via email, right? You sent that to everybody via email?
Yes.
Yeah. So folks, you have that already on your email. folks in the audience or who are sitting at home, I should say, and want to participate, typically what we do is we allow the applicant to make a presentation. After that, we open it up to general questions from the public and from the board members. Typically, these types of things are then sent out for engineering review. That is what that is. And you hear Adam Krantz is with us tonight from Environmental Partners Group. They're they're an engineering firm that works for the town, but it's paid for by the applicant. So when we talk about peer review, that's what we're talking about. I know that some peer review has already taken place, and some of those documents and the plans will all be on our website. Again, freetownma.gov. Go to boards and committees, planning board. You will see where it should say April 20th, 2021 meeting materials. Click on that, and you will see that there are the last 4 items are for 32 Middleborough Road. Okay, that being said, we have the applicant and or their representatives here tonight.
Yes.
It's Ryan Young again, correct?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Ryan Young. I am sharing my screen now just so everybody's clear who it is. And with me tonight again is Chris King, our engineer from Atlantic, as well as Betsy Mason, our attorney from Cleveland's Law Group. I thought I'll be as concise as I can, but I wanted to walk through the project. We talked a little bit about it at the conservation hearing, but I know there's some additional people, interested parties, butters here. And so I wanted to give sort of an overview of the whole project. And then we can have a little discussion about it and absolutely understand that engineering and peer review is still underway. But
yeah, Ryan, if you would be so kind as to, if you're whatever plan sheet you're working from or looking at or showing, some of us don't have the screen share going on, so we're actually going off the website. You can just tell us what sheet you're looking at. That's all.
No problem. I can.
Thank you.
Just really briefly about CVE, we deal all in renewable energy, and in the United States, we work on solar projects in the Commonwealth and throughout New England. And our model is just a little bit different in that all projects we work on and develop, we plan to own for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So we don't sort of have a development and flip model. So in our mind, that really puts the emphasis on quality, because, you know, we had to deal with it for 40 years if we do something incorrect at the first step. One thing that CVE does is we have a environmental agenda admission, and we do $1 for every panel we install. And when we build any project in a town, we go to the local community. Typically, we ask the Conservation Commission and people in town for either a wildlife or a habitat or a water type restoration project that we can fund. So we don't pick the project, we go to the community and tell us which projects you want us to pick. So will be part of this project and every project we do. Once we build the project, what we do is we sell the power through a subscription method right back to the community. So anybody in the Freetown area or Eversource East that wants to purchase power, either a business or a residence, they can buy clean, local, renewable power from our facilities right into their home. So it's really a program designed for example, somebody who lives in an apartment or somebody who has a house that's not good for renewable energy, or somebody that doesn't want to do the capital investment. So that's our program, and that's what we plan to do with the solar we generate on this project. In terms of the plans, in terms of the specific project, I'm looking at what I think is sheet 1 of the plans. It's just sort of the overview page showing the locus map of where we are along Middleborough Road and Claremont Way. And just a brief overview of the project. It's about 2.7 megawatts. I'll dial into the property in just a second, but the whole property that we're looking at is about 16 acres. And the project will be about half of that, which is 8 acres or so inside the fence. We, of course, CVE will pay taxes for the project. That will be, you know, the town will assess taxes later, and we will provide taxes, but no demand on town services such as school, sewer, water, and things like that. We'll be doing jobs, and I'll talk a little bit about Pollinator friendly on the project in a few minutes. But We have completed our sort of environmental review on the project. I mean, the engineering review has been complete and is being reviewed, but in terms of the environmental, there was no critical habitat or endangered species on the project, no cultural historic resources. I can show you the wetlands in just a second, but the wetlands have been identified and delineated. We're going through that process with the Conservation Commission now, but there are no vernal pools on the property, and we're not impacting any wellhead protection areas. So now we're on sheet 2 of the engineering plans submitted. And this is sort of the existing conditions or the base map. And it's sort of the layout of the property as it is today. As I noted, the project is about 16 acres. And just to clarify or to avoid any confusion, if you were to look on the town tax maps or the town GIS maps, you might see that this property was at least demarcated into about 7 different lots. That process started a few years ago. And long story short, I think we've now cleared that up with the planning board, where that subdivision application has been rescinded, or we clarified that the plan was never recorded. So the property is in fact legally all back into one large 16-acre parcel. And these are the boundaries shown as they exist today. On the western part here, this is Middleborough Road, Claremont Way. There's a small piece of frontage here. And if you've ever been in this area, you'll know that there's 2 houses. I think this is lot 9C and 9D, I believe they're called, just south of Claremont Way. And there is 1 house on the subject property just north of Claremont Way. I'll come back to the house in just a second, but I was referring to the wetlands earlier. What we're working on with the Conservation Commission, and through the process, there's a cranberry bog to the north and sort of this wetland that crosses the property north to south. We've identified the wetland, and we're holding to the 100-foot buffer for the project. We have gotten a zoning determination from the building commissioner, and I forget the gentleman's name. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Or I can pull the letter. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
We did talk about the zoning of the project, and of course we did reference to him that there is an existing house on the property. He says that in terms of both state law and town zoning, that is okay. We have an agreement with the landowner where we're going to work that out between us. So it'll change in the future, but as of now, the zoning and with the house on it for sort of, if you want to call it a dual use where there would be solar, he says we're okay to move forward with the process and the site review. So I just moved forward to sheet 3 of 7 on the site plans. Again, I will use my cursor and kind of outline. This is the general project area. This is what you might call inside the fence here. Inside the fence is again that 8 acres and about 2.7 megawatts. To the north, this is the drainage basin. Access will be down Claremont Way and then straight out to the east. It's just kind of showing an access road here. And again, we have inverter and storage on this project, very much the same as the Forge project, if you were also listening to that conversation. Again, the wetlands, it's hard, I realize it's hard to see on here, but the wetland line is right here, and you can kind of see the little wetland marker right here. This is the wetland line, and this is the buffer, well to the west of the existing dwelling. And down here in the south, here's the wetland line and the buffer. So we've made sure to leave a good distance and a good buffer between the wetland and the project. We've also added, in addition to the sort of natural screening that's out there, we've added screening along the west and along the southern portion of the property. Just real quick on storage. I know storage is new to a lot of people, new to a lot of towns in the Commonwealth. It's new to some companies. I think maybe, as you know, or maybe as we talked about, storage is now required on all these projects. So you will be seeing more of it. What we're using is a DC coupled storage made by SunGrow. A lot of people ask how it operates and when it operates. The way it's most likely to be used is the storage containers and these small batteries that are inside the container are charged up during the day when there's a lot of sun, and then it's sort of discharged during the peak electricity use, which is, probably for most of the year, between 4 and 6 at night, around those times. So this is what the storage container looks like. It either sits on a concrete pad or more likely, concrete pad is sort of the worst case scenario if you're thinking about storage. Usually it's just going to sit on 2 small 2-foot by 2-foot concrete pads. It's probably 6 of those little pads. A lot of people want to know what the project is going to look like when we're done. Of course, after the construction period, we start seeding. CVE has been really investing in Pollinator Friendly, which is an optional program. And we feel like it's better for the project. It's better for the neighbors. It's better for wildlife habitat. We'll plant a pretty intense mix of native grasses and wildflowers out there. It'll look real nice. It helps with stormwater, and it reduces the amount of mowing and other things like that. So we feel like it's sort of a win-win for the project. So that is the overall view of the project. I will go back to the site diagram because I'm sure that's where there will be the most questions. I'm happy to turn it over to back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so is there anybody here from the general public that would like to make a comment or have any questions? If you do, just try to get our attention. Just say, excuse me, and then I'll recognize you. Huh.
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Hello. This is Frank Ashley, and we're in a butter to the north. We're the Cranberry Bog.
Yes, Mr. Ashley, welcome.
I was wondering if I get a copy of the plans for the water retention and where the discharge is going to be, so I can know what the elevations are to see whether you're going to be discharging above or below the level of our Cranberry Bog that is just north of you guys.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways that could be done. One, we could, I believe we can actually scan the full set at work, and then we could send you a PDF. So you would have to contact our office and give them your email address.
Okay.
Additionally, you know, which is fine, and we'll do that. Additionally, in the interim, if you'd like, you could go on our website, actually, freetownma.gov, and go and look on tonight's meeting materials. And the entire plan set is available that way too. So if you want to look at it that way, I'm just trying to see, Ryan, is there a detail that would show that the elevations of the discharge for that detention basin located at the northern part of the project?
Let me see if I can find it while we're talking here. I don't know if I can pull it up, but I'll try.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but it looks like the bottom elevation of the pit will be at 86.5. And then, yeah, after that, it's 86. That's in that other swale. And then your discharge goes to the north. Is that correct?
I'm still looking. Chris, are you, do you have that on the top of your head?
Either way, you can look for that. But Mr. Ashley, we'll certainly get you that information.
Yep.
I
apologize. This is Chris with Atlantic. I was muted. I
No worries.
didn't realize it. Good evening. Just for the record, my name is Christopher King with Atlantic Design Engineers. And through the chair, the discharge for the basin itself along the northern edge there, the bottom of the basin is at elevation 87. And so, you know, relative to the bog, it's higher than the bog itself. The main discharge from our basin is, as the stormwater bylaw requires, a 12-inch pipe that's located within a small depression area for sedimentation and water quality purposes. And that basically discharges to a level spreader, which discharges, you know, daylights, and then everything else flows via overland flow through the, you know, there's at least 50 feet of existing vegetative buffer to remain on our project site. So the discharge is higher relative to the bog. But again, the stormwater design has been set such that we meet all of the standards, namely, you know, peak rate of runoff, you know, recharge and water quality.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Mr. Ashley, but I can tell you on when the initial proposal for stormwater management relative to the subdivision plan, there was a justified level of concern. He's a cranberry grower. That's what they depend on for their livelihood to a certain degree. Yeah. And I, you know, just wanted to make sure that whatever the end product is going to be is not going to be detrimental. And we're certainly going to take that into consideration. So I think if whatever we can do to make sure that Mr. Ashley has a complete understanding of what's going on over there, the better it is. So, you know, maybe it's just, you know, we get a blow up of that area. You know, you've got the elevations of the bog in there, so that's going to be helpful. So I understand this correctly, right? We're assuming that the deep pond is on a east-west axis. You have what I'm considering the emergency spillway. Is that correct? That goes out directly to the north, and then the piped spillway goes out to the northeast. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, so so you have basically a little bit of a sump there, but so what's all right? So obviously you designed it so the invert of the pipe is at an elevation to carry water out and then meet all the standards. And I think what's important is most normal activity other than 100-year storm or greater is going to be directed in the easterly direction and feed out that way. And it's just the emergency spillway, if you will, that would overfill once it got to elevation 90, I believe, and would go in a northerly direction. Again, having to travel through that vegetated buffer and all. But it's important that Mr. Ashley gets all that information. So whatever we can do to make sure he gets it between our staff and your staff, let's just make sure he gets that so he has a good understanding. All right, Mr. Ashley, do you have anything else?
No, I just want to make sure that we're not going to be inundated with water, because we can't handle water and contamination with the cranberry bog. That's all. So that is our major concern, is that we don't have water when we don't want water. That's all.
Yep. And the quality of water and yes. So I think both of those things have to be addressed in the stormwater management practices that they have to employ and the design. And I can guarantee you that our peer review engineers are going to be looking at to ensure that they do meet and or exceed those. But any other concerns or any concerns that you may have or questions, feel free to ask them. We'll make sure they get answered for you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Anybody else?
Hi, yes.
Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Shelley Hopkins. I'm in a butter at 4 Claremont Way.
Excellent. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. Speaking of unwanted water, the northwest corner of 4 Claremont Way has, where it connects to 32 Middleborough Road and 26 Middleborough Road, has had a history over the last 3 to 5 years of flooding every time there is even a mild rainstorm. I did send photographs of the rainstorm that we had just this past weekend, where when I went out with some bogs, the water was up over my ankle in certain areas. So I'm extremely concerned about the expansion of the roadway utilizing only gravel, because we have attempted to repair potholes and whatnot with crushed stone in the past, and it has just gotten washed away within a month. And also, if there's no regrading or proper drainage of that corner, the water continuing to flow onto our property. We've already had significant damage to our driveway over the last several years. So that's one concern. The other concern we have is with the culvert, and that is, the culvert was installed with the assumption that this would be a private road with only one car driving on it at a time. During construction, with having heavy equipment and whatnot, we're extremely concerned about the structural integrity of that culvert and whether or not it can sustain that traffic. And if it does not, and it should collapse, we would have significant flooding on our property as well as the property at 6 Claremont Way as well.
Right. And some of those concerns, Shelley, were brought up in the actual subdivision public hearings. So you folks over there are continuing to beat the same drum, which is good. There's a consistent message there, is what I'm saying. This is an interesting issue too. That Claremont Way is a private way. It's owned by, it's private property for all intents and purposes. So it's not like the town can go in there and do any kind of upgrades or anything along those lines. It's not a town-owned road. But it is not unusual in this town and many others to require some sort of off-site mitigation to ensure, safety of the site, whether it's site distances at major intersections, we're asked to clear back. So that, or it's safety of the actual structures within the road. Granted, we don't own them, but to your point, there's a reason why that culvert's there. It's to promote drainage, but also it allows for a connectivity, if you will, between wetland areas. Should we get a collapse, should we get a restriction, then you cannot continue that connectivity. Or if you do, it's in a manner that's not advantageous for the wetlands. What do I mean? Instead of going through a culvert and staying off the road grade, it gets into the road grade, picks up any road grime, greases, that kind of stuff, dirt, debris, and then it washes it into the wetlands. So there is a legitimate concern. I know at the Conservation Commission meeting, the structural integrity, the going back and forth, the actual road construction, those types of things, you were told, right, it's more of a planning board issue, and it is. But by proxy, those things are going to get addressed through planning board, which means that they'll get addressed for conservation too at the same time. So, Chris, I'd asked, I don't know if you had a chance today, Nils, to look at the subdivision approval. If I'm not mistaken, there was some culvert work that was going to be done there because they were going to have to widen the road. They were going to have to do certain things. And so I'll ask the applicant now. I'll pose it in a different way, I should say. I think I share the same level of concern. I've been out to that road, and it's tough to even call it a road, quite honestly. It's in tough shape, and it has been exacerbated by a number of things. And so the idea that we're just going to go in there with some more crushed gravel put along the sides of the road, that may work well while you're doing construction. It may, right? Because you're there every day. You can fix the holes. You can do, but as a final product, if you will, it's going to leave, I think it's going to leave a bad situation. And so I think you've heard the comment at the conservation, you're hearing it now. I don't want to go into the diatribe of, you know, Freetown, you're fortunate that we allow some of this activity to take place in residential areas. Part of our site plan review process to make sure that it can coexist in harmony with the residential areas. We recognize the advantages for the town, but at the same time, we have to understand that there is certainly going to be an impact. I think you understand that from your prior public hearing experiences with us. So I'm going to strongly suggest, just my own opinion, there's other board members here, that you look at and possibly reconsider the means and methods of construction and how you're going to get in and out of there, and actually looking at the structural integrity of that culvert to ensure that, because again, keeping in mind, it's not just residential, right? And this, we're not even talking about a regular home, you know, where you might get a tractor trailer going in there a couple of times with a backhoe to do some site work. This is going to be a more steady, at least while you're constructing it, stream, and so I think you will probably would be well served to at least maybe look at different routes or different avenues, maybe even try to offset or take care of some of the existing drainage issues. You know, if you're going to be there, you don't want to have to fight a washed out road every time you get over there either. So I think it's something that you should look at. So Shelley, do you have anything else?
So I think that addresses the culvert. Does that also kind of addresses the northwest corner as well, correct? Like, because we're concerned about that drainage as well.
Right. I mean, I guess if I really wanted to be a stickler about it, I can make an argument that the applicant has already recognized a need that the access is insufficient, so they've come up with a remedy. Mm-hmm. I would suggest that the remedy may not, in fact, be sufficient enough or needs to be proven out better. Mm-hmm. Additionally, there is a legitimate concern for that culvert. Like I said, it's been expressed in public hearings prior to this. Yep. So I would anticipate that the applicant will now at least take a cursory look at some of those items that you brought up tonight to see if they can address it, right? Part of your project, whether it's a part of the overall grand scheme, you know, 40 years from now, but part of your project is gaining access and making it adequate. And so I would say that if that's the case, then you may want to look to see if you can do some sort of improvement to some drainage over there to at least try to allay some of these concerns. It may be the fact that just initial construction and elevations are such that this is going to be an issue forever. But what we don't want to is by allowing this to, or granting this permit to exacerbate that. So I'm hopeful that you will at least try to look at that.
Thank you. Yes, we're
sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Young again. We've started to look into this already. There's certainly some things on site that we can look at, and I think there's also some challenges that we've been made aware of that are kind of off-site. We can look at that too. We're just looking for clarity. And one thing I can say is I think it would be useful to meet on site, Ms. Hopkins, and this goes for Mr. Ashley too. We're happy to put my my contact information is on the website, so please reach out directly if you would find that helpful, so we can perhaps meet out there and go over some things.
Thank you, Mr. Young. We very much appreciate that, and we will be reaching out shortly.
Great.
All right, thank you. And you know what? This is how these things are supposed to work. I always, you know, and so I appreciate both parties' patience and understanding with this. So excellent. Anything else from any abutters? No? Okay. Is there anything from the board members that may have some questions?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay. So, yeah, again, to your point, ladies and gentlemen, applicants, representatives, this is a relatively straightforward, right? I think we understand by now these things. But I think at the end of the day, you hear the concerns about 12 Forge. So I would hope that we could all learn from that process, more specifically us, what we're going to ask of you, how we want you to address it. And you folks on your side, and more specifically relative to any kind of noise that's going to happen over there. I would hope if you've supplied it already and it's being reviewed, thank you. If not, that we could somewhat address it in maybe in a similar manner. That way everybody has a level of comfort moving forward. If in fact we are going to go to more of these storage units, there is an increased opportunity for noise. And we just want to ensure that that when this is at the end of the day, that this is the best project it can be. All right, where does this stand with peer review now? If I'm not mistaken, we've already sent this out with some initial review.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so Adam, are you still reviewing this now? Is Adam still with us?
No, I don't think he is.
This is Chris with Atlantic. Just for clarity, so EPG has reviewed the project. We are in receipt of their peer review letter, and so we are, working and consistent with Forge and the lessons learned both through EPG and the public hearing process. Preparing additional information or making any changes as required for consistency to address all of EPG's comments. And, we really wanted to use this evening's time to get comments from the board as well as the abutters so that hopefully we can incorporate everything and hopefully be complete and hopefully address all comments prior to the next hearing.
Excellent. I thank you. So that's perfect. So you'll get back to them. So you anticipate wanting to be on the May 4th meeting, or do you think it needs to be the May 18th meeting?
I think that, I think the May 4th hearing would be appropriate.
Perfect.
It sounds like just for quick clarification, I mean, I know EPG, I believe, and I don't want to speak for Adam, but has concluded their review, initial review. I know there was some mention about, again, for consistency's sake, when comparing it to what we've done for Forge, addressing the sound impacts. And so, again, I guess that would be my only question. I know that if we submit the noise impact statement similar to what we had done for Forge, I would hope that, that level of review, EPG could do that and not have to, wait for an additional independent noise study review. If that is the case, then I think that the additional information I think is minor in nature, if you will, in the sense that it would give us, the May 4th hearing would give us adequate time to get everything in based on what we've heard tonight, possibly even conduct a site visit with Mr. Ashley and Ms. Hopkins, and be in a position hopefully to allow the board to render a decision on May 4th. So that's, I guess, will be our preference.
Excellent. Yeah, sure. So looks like you're looking for May 4th. Again, as EPG often does, they will try to get this stuff done in a timely manner. So I think they've proven that out. So,
yep.
All right. If there's nothing else from the public or any board members, then I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed solar array at 32 Middleborough Road to May 4th, 6 p.m. via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and supported. There's no further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. So that motion passes unanimous. So what I would suggest is, Mr. Ashley and Shelley, if you're still here, Hopkins, forward your email or any way to get in contact with you. We will make sure that the applicant's representatives get that information so that they can facilitate an on-site if necessary. If there is an on-site and any one of the residents or the applicant would like me to be there, if you let me know, that way I can put in for an hour or so off at work, and then I can try to scoot over there to be part of that if people would want me to. So feel free to reach out through the office with that information.
Okay, do you want me to call the town hall to reach out?
Yeah, you can call. Sure, this is Mr. Ashley, right?
Mr. Young, that I can reach out directly to him?
Yeah, either way. Again, if Mr. Young wants to give his contact information out over the Zoom meeting and offer up a direct contact, that's fine. Take us out of the loop. We don't have to be the middleman. I'm fine with that too. So that would be up to Mr. Young or Chris or anyone else. Are they still with us?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let you know, I just put email. I emailed Ms. Hopkins because she put a note in the chat. Mr. Ashley, if you can see the chat on the Zoom meeting, I posted my email address to see it.
Yes, I see it. Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. Thank you all. Appreciate the cooperation. Okay, so we're going to be moving along with our agenda now. And so I'm just trying to find, first one we took care of, the second one is done, third is done, 4 is done, 5 is done, 6 and 7 are done. Are we done, Chris?
The only thing would be to approve the minutes that were not approved last meeting.
Wow, we are the model of efficiency. I love it. Okay.
I sent them out
really,
again.
Really efficient when half the things have to be continued. So has anybody had an opportunity to read the minutes? And if so, I'll accept the motion.
Kevin, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of February 16th, 2021.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Motion's been made and supported. If there's no further discussion, I'll take a roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Okay, item number 9, any other business to properly come before the board? Just to give the board a heads up, I know we talked, I think, briefly about this. That we need to get a clearer understanding from the zoning enforcement official relative to the solar arrays being sited on properties that have an existing house. There's been some conversation, I know, with the zoning board of appeals has brought it up, and we have brought it up as a planning board. He has offered to come tonight, but unfortunately, he is at a selectmen's meeting here in town tonight. So I told him that we'd put him on the agenda. He wasn't on the agenda, so we'll put him on, in fairness, we'll put him on the agenda for the May 4th to speak specifically to the issue of should it be considered a home occupation for solar if there is an existing house, and what has given us, I think, a foothold or some clarity, excuse me, on this is the governor just passed a law, or the state just passed a law. It's an environmental law that basically puts 2 things that are very important to the town of Freetown. One is very important. It gives the town's ability to tax solar in a fair rate, which means that we're going to continue to still reap these tax dollars from these. If you remember, there was some discussion that they believed, and for a while there, the courts agreed with them that there was that they were exempt from taxes, right? They were treated as same as a solar array that was put up on your house. But more importantly, I think, is there is a distinction made, and while it's for taxing and assessing purposes, I think it's a point of demarcation that we should really consider when moving forward on these things as a town, is that homeowners, anything over 125% of the required usage, whether it's for a residence, or I guess in this case, or in cases for a business, if you're going to put solar, anything over 125% is then considered commercial taxes and will be taxed at commercial. So the government has finally clarified a couple of items that have been important to us. We've talked about how the gray area about solar, and even the solar company alluded to that, that they talked to Jeff and state code and state laws and all. But this gives clarity. And so I think that we're, at least in the immediacy, are going to be looking for the zoning enforcement official to take a position that any residential application of ground-mounted solar, or even roof-mounted, I guess, that constitutes more than 125% of the domestic needs will be considered. And I don't want to speak for him. This is what we're going to talk about, but I think it's our desire that should be considered a home occupation, and so should be subject to the special permit through home occupation, which would be through the ZBA. At least until we can get something else on the books, I think that's going to give us at least a leg to stand on. Several of us have received them. We've gotten calls about them. These flyers, these mailers that go out by these solar companies, and I get it, and I can appreciate it. They're clean. We're going that direction as a country, as a state. I get it. But if you've got an extra half acre, quarter acre, whatever it is, they're going to come in and they're going to plop a check on your table, and there you go. And what we have is these, and there's one or two that are going in and being constructed now. The fear is that you've got these residential subdivisions that have almost 2 acre lots, and they're going to put an acre and a half of solar and call it domestic use. Well, I think that we need to have a very important conversation with Jeff on this. I don't want to, again, speak for him. He seems to be in agreement, and he's thankful that the state has given us some clarity. So hopefully going forward, Bob, this is, and the rest of the board, is going to address some of the concerns that you guys have brought up. So
for the other board members, I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, please, Bob.
For the other board members, if they want to take a quick look in the town bylaws, I think you can look at 1115 and 1116. 1115 talks more about inside the house home occupations. 25% of the house can be used for it. It goes into detail a little bit, but 1116 is really where you want to look. That's outside the house occupation. And if it's being deemed, as Kevin just said, anything over a certain percentage is being deemed commercial, then that's where we want to have. I think, in my opinion, we want to have a discussion with the zoning enforcement officer and say, and really nail it down and say, if it's a residential property that there's already a house on it and that's the primary use, the principal use, I should say, then the accessory use is going to fall. It's an occupation. The state determines it as commercial. Does 1116 apply? And if so, then it needs as Kevin said, it needs a special permit from the special permit granting authority.
And Bob, that's strictly for if they're selling it to the grid. If it's used for their own, like you're doing, it's totally different.
Well, I believe the state, like Kevin just said, the state actually came up with a high number. So even if you're using it domestically, if it exceeds 100, what did you say, Kevin? They ended up with? I know originally they were
125% of the domestic needs. And again, how they figured that out over the course of the year, yada yada, I don't know. So the way it was explained to me, So the way it was explained to me, it doesn't mean that in the longest day of June, when the sun's out for 12 and a half, 13, whatever hours it is, that and you make 175%, well, they're automatically going to come in and tax you anything over that. I think there's an aggregate, there's an average. They look at domestic use. there's a formula. Let's just put it this way, right? And typically that's what. Yeah.
You actually have to turn in when you apply for it to your solar turn on. You have to give them 12 months worth of electric bills.
Yeah.
Those 12 months worth of electric bills is your yearly portion. So if that's 12 megawatts, then that's your yearly. You can exceed that by 125% and still be considered domestic. Anything over 125%.
By 25%. By 25%.
I'm sorry. That plus 25% extra. Yes, which comes into a whole problem. We've had that discussion. That's not on our level, but they're pushing us all towards solar cars. I mean, electric cars and electric everything.
Right.
Everybody's going to exceed that. So your house demand is going to go up, and you're going to have undersized solar systems. But that's not for this board. That's not the purview of this board. No. So anything, but that's how they figure. It's on an annual basis, and then you can exceed that by 25% of what your historic annual basis is.
Yeah. So Deb, to answer your question, yes, it's speaking more specifically to the residential applications. And again, we're finding this out where, in a very wide open residential subdivision, you've got this, for all intents and purposes, it's a commercial enterprise. I don't even know if the people are going to be using it on their own property for themselves. And so I think one might, and we've never done that here in town, and it's a very difficult position sometimes to defend. One could possibly look at our bylaw that says large-scale solar over 250 kW, and somebody could make the assertion, well, if it's less than 250 kW, it's not allowed because this bylaw is specific to large-scale over 250. We've never enforced it that way. I think we'd be hard-pressed to do that now, particularly since we don't enforce any of our other bylaws in that manner. But like I said, in the immediacy, this gives us an opportunity to start to claw back a little bit, right? We talk about zoning being a living, breathing thing. When we created these bylaws years ago, I don't think anybody ever imagined that you were going to be approached by solar companies to get a quarter acre or a half acre of solar, and then they would start paying you money for it. I don't think that ever came into anybody's imagination. But to your point, Bob, that is the direction we're going, right? It's already a requirement within the building code to build your homes so that they can in the future support, and in some instances, support solar arrays. And in some instances, I think they're looking to require it, if not already soon to be, that you have the infrastructure in any new home, that the infrastructure already be put into your home so that you can have solar. So it's a direction we're going in. We just don't want to find ourselves in a situation where you have these solar arrays that have gone installed unchecked with no provisions at mitigation within these residential subdivisions, because that certainly wasn't the intent of the bylaw. So
Kevin,
we're going to have Jeff. Yes.
Kevin, I got a question for you. Can we address some of this through rules and regulations where site plan review? Is that possible to do, like, for the sound one, for example? We were just talking about the sound one. We don't really have it on paper. Is that something we should have a discussion and maybe put in our rules and regulations to require a sound plan on every submission now for solar?
Yeah, so you're right. We can do that. I think the way our site plan review are, they leave it a lot up to, if in the board's determination it's necessary or a requirement, they may require, and it goes on to list, traffic study, sound study, light study, that kind of stuff, right? So we could certainly make it a requirement specific when we create the new rules and regulations specific to solar, that yes, sound and this level of sound attenuation or mitigation and this level of sound scrutiny or engineering review is required. So yeah, that's something we could put in there.
Just because we heard it tonight, he's saying, is this typical for your normal submissions? Well, and then later on in another one, he says they're all going to have battery backup now. So maybe this is something we should be thinking about that's going to become a long-term problem.
Yeah, it goes to our point that, things change, technology changes, right? And so we try to be in the forefront. We try to be out front. But we certainly have to be a bit reactive in this instance.
Right.
You know, we're not anti-solar by any stretch of the imagination. You know, we get it. It's good, clean energy. We get all that. But it doesn't mean that we have to be inundated to the point where it's upsetting and off-putting. You know, we don't want to turn our town into something where somebody drives through and says, I never want to live there. So it's just part of our overall mission. But so we'll invite him into our next meeting, and I think we can impress upon him where we stand with this. If there's nothing else, I will happily accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
There you go.
Second.
Motion's been made and supported to adjourn. If there's no further discussion on the motion, hearing none, roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all, and Dave again. Thanks for, right? Dave is here, isn't he?
He was. He might have left.
He was.
Yep.
He okay. Well, anyway, when he goes back to watch the meeting, thanks everybody for coming and being here. Stay safe, and like I said, we'll do everything we can to get the answers we need for the in-person meeting. So,
Mr. Chairman, I just want to tell you it's a breath of fresh air. I've been watching some of the YouTube meetings and other board meetings, and it's a breath of fresh air to have a quality chairman as yourself to run a meeting appropriately.
Oh,
I'll have to second
I didn't
that.
even have to buy you well, thank you very much. I didn't even have to buy either you a coffee to get that compliment.
I have always thought that.
I know. I appreciate it. I appreciate
we
it.
take the quality for granted sometimes, and when you see how other meetings have been run, it's a breath of fresh air to someone that knows what he's doing and can take control of a meeting correctly.
I thank you very much, guys. You are very, very kind, and I do appreciate that. Stay safe. Excuse me. And if anything comes up, we will certainly email you and keep in touch with you guys. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.